Well, other than a good cup of tea, I think reading scripture with other people, it can be a bit tricky sometimes, can't it? But I read recently in this little book by Rowan Williams called Being Human, he says none of us can see the back of our own heads. And I think that's really useful when we think about reading scripture with other people, because there are things in life that I can't see. Like, I can't see the back of my own head. I need somebody else's sight, somebody else's vision to get the full picture. And I think that, you know, different people, they've had different upbringings, they have different pasts, they read scripture differently, and they see things that I won't see when I'm reading scripture. And I think bearing all that in mind is really useful when we come to read the Bible with other people.
I particularly find it helpful when we linger with a passage for some time. And one technique that I use with one of my groups of friends is that we read the passage and then call out any words or phrases that stand out to us. And it just really allows time for me to absorb the passage and to get to know it well. And then finally, we spend some time reflecting and discussing what God might be revealing or saying to us through the passage, and what we feel we might need to do in response. It certainly helps me not only understand the scripture, but also to be in a place of expecting God to speak to me through what I'm reading.
I really find that like media, like podcast or videos help me to kind of unpack or share my thoughts with others and get their opinions as well. So
I love reading scripture with people who aren't Christians. I love reading those Bible passages with people who've seen them for the first time. The questions and the curiosity of when they hear it, and some of the awkward questions as well. There are even questions that some Christians would want to ask but feel fearful of asking. I just get really excited sharing the Gospels and reading Bible passages with people who aren't believers and are sceptical and want to pull it apart and want to point out all the holes in it. God can hold his own. He's there, you know, you can pull him apart, you can scrutinise him. He hasn't made us sheep. We are sheep to his flock, but he hasn't made us sheep. We're not drones. And he wants us to be inquisitive, he wants us to question. But we have to accept his answers as well.
One of my friends was doing a sermon, and he said, "Oh mate, could you just go through this scripture with me?" And we kind of sat down and batted ideas. And I found it so refreshing and kind of had a brand new perspective, challenged each other in the scripture while reading through. And it kind of just reminded me that it's such a blessing to have other people journeying with you, and you can kind of challenge each other and encourage each other with the scripture and in the scriptures, and sharing our own experience and views and kind of digging for truth together. But any meal always tastes better when shared with other people in a group.
The way I find that most helpful is actually through small groups as part of church. So at the moment I'm part of a group of around 6 to 10 of us, and we meet regularly, and some part of those times we actually go through Bible studies together, whereby we will have read certain passages in the week leading up to it, and then when we meet together, have a bit of food first. It's always very important, and then we'll actually have time of worship, and then time of talking through what we've read and how we can apply it to our lives, and actually having open, honest discussion with each other. You know, recognising there's bits that we may not understand or bits that we might have slightly different views on, but actually having those discussions with, you know, my fellow friends and Christians is really helpful to me.